Hi there. Now in this question we're given that this expression here, 40 over 4 in brackets, equals 40 factorial all divided by 4 factorial b factorial. And we've got to write down the value of b for 1 mark. So if you'd like to have a go at this, haven't done so already, just give you a moment to pause the video. Okay, welcome back then if you had a go. Well, the answer for b is in fact that b equals 36. But how do we get that? Well, quite often you'll see this as representing a combination, but it's often written as what we call NCR, something like this, NCR. And as I say, you can write it in this format, n over r. It almost looks like a vector, but it's not a vector. What it means in this context is that it's equal to n factorial divided by r factorial n minus r factorial. So when I look at what we've got here, 40c4 or 40 over 4 here is going to equal 40 factorial for n divided by r factorial, that's the 4 factorial there, and then it should be n minus r factorial. So we've got to do 40 minus 4, which is going to be 36. So b would be 36, so we end up with 36 factorial there. Okay? Right, now in the next part, we're told that in the binomial expansion of 1 plus x to the power 40, the coefficients of x to the power 4 and x to the power 5 are p and q respectively. And we've got to find the value of q divided by p for 3 marks. So again, if you'd like to try this, haven't done so already, just give you a moment to pause the video. Okay, welcome back then if you had a go. Now the answer to this one is 7.2 or 36 over 5. But if you didn't get that, I'll just take you through how you could do it. And there's several ways. We've got to be familiar with the binomial formula. And there's either this one, 1 plus a to the power n is identical to what you see here, or you've got this version, a plus b to the power n is identical to nc0, a to the power n, b to the power 0, and so on. So I'll show you how you can use either one of these formulas. Okay? So first of all, let's have a look at what we get when we look at the coefficient of x to the 4. We'll just put this in here as a little subtitle, coefficient of x to the power 4. Remember, coefficients are the values in front of, say, in this case, x to the power 4, and we're told that it equals p. Now, if we were using this version of the binomial expansion formula, then when I compare to what we've got here, 1 plus x to the power 40, a would be the x and n would be the 40. So if we're looking at the coefficient of x to the 4, then you can see the coefficient of what would be x cubed would be n times n minus 1 times n minus 2 over 3 factorial. The next term, the coefficient of what would be x to the power 4, would be n times n minus 1, n minus 2, n minus 3 all over 4 factorial. In other words, what we would have would be, through that formula, 40 then multiplied by 39, multiplied by 38, multiplied by 37. And that would be divided by 4 factorial. Okay, and that would equal our value p. If we did it through this version of the formula, a would correspond to the 1, b would correspond to the x, and n would be the 40. And for this, if we're looking for the coefficient of x to the power 4, that's when b was to the power 4, we would have NC4. You can see, like for b squared it's NC2, for b to the 1 it's NC1 here. So for b to the 4, or x to the power 4, it's going to be NC4, n being 40. So we would have, or p would equal 40C4. I'll write it in that kind of style. And it feels like it's this style that they kind of want us to go for, because the first question was working with this kind of idea. Now if you work this out, okay, you'll find that you get, whether you use this version or whether you use this one, if you do this on a calculator, I'm assuming you're familiar with using the NCR function on your calculator. If not, I've got tutorials on that on my website. But you should find you get 91,000, I should say, 390. Okay, so check that out. Now we'll look at the coefficient of x to the power 5. At this point you might like to just pause the video and work it out yourself, okay? But we're told that it equals q. Well, the coefficient of x to the 5, if we were looking at this formula here, well, that's going to be 40 times 39 times 38 times 37 times 36. Okay, and that would be divided all by 5 factorial. So that equals q. If we were to use the other formula, this one here, then what q would be 40C5, or I write it in this style. Okay, now that's going to work out whether you use this version on your calculator or you type in the NCR function for 40C5. You'll get this equaling 658,008. Okay, 658,008. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to get those. Okay, now it's very easy to work out what we require here, q divided by p. Now, if you do q divided by p, in other words, this number divided by this number, you will find that you end up with 36 over 5, or 7.2. Now, I've left a little bit of space here because you could actually do this very easily without a calculator. I'll show you how. Okay. We know that q is 40C5, and using our formula up here, that would be equal to 40 factorial divided by 5 factorial, okay, divided by 35 factorial. So that's 40C5, and we would divide this by 40C4. Now, I'm going to turn the fraction that I would get for this upside down. Okay, when we dividing fractions, we can turn a fraction upside down and multiply. This would normally be 40 factorial divided by 4 factorial divided by 36 factorial. We got it up here essentially, but if I turn that upside down, we're going to have 4 factorial there times 36 factorial and divided by 40 factorial. Now we can cancel. 40 factorial cancels with 40 factorial here. Remember, 36 factorial is 36 times 35 times 34, etc., all the way down to 1, and 35 factorial is 35 times 34 times 33, etc., all the way down to 1. So this will cancel into 36 factorial and just leave us with 36. And there's a similar argument for 5 factorial here, 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And this one, 4 factorial, 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. That 4 factorial will cancel into 5 factorial just 5 times. And can you see now what we got is 36 over 5. Right? So you can do it without a calculator if you wish. So there you go. Hope you've been able to follow that. And that brings us to the end of this question.